Please. Thank you. You know, I think, Fred, thank you very much. No, that's okay. Thank you. I think that a better system than last in, first out seniority-based system is a system that is based on merit, which means you then need an objective evaluation system to actually determine that merit. We don't have that system in place in the state yet. Depending on who you talk to, you get different estimates of when we will. That is a system I think we need in any event. My presentation on the budget when it came to education funding, a major priority for me is performance funding, performance standards, which means you're going to have to be able to evaluate that performance. And this would be one such example. So we need an objective evaluation system for teachers. If you have that, that should provide at least part of the basis for making a determination. I think what happened is, when you have no objective evaluation system, what do you use? Well, then use just seniority, because you have nothing else. And that's really what the LIFO system is. Seniority when you have nothing else. But we should have objective evaluation criteria.
Although you think the bill meets that test, and were you surprised at all by the 85% figure that came out of the poll, favoring the alternative?
You know, I didn't think about it before, Fred, but I don't know that it was surprising. If you ask people, you have to make difficult decisions on who should stay and who should go. Should they be based just on seniority, or should you consider performance? I think the answer is performance.
And the bill itself, are you familiar enough with it to say whether it meets the criteria of the test that you apply?
I am not. I haven't reviewed the bill. I don't know that it really sets up an objective evaluation system, which is what I think you're going to need as a meaningful alternative to a LIFO system. I just haven't read the bill.
Governor, the Senate Democrats claim that Republicans are using a procedural trick to prevent their members from signing on as co-sponsors to the redistricting bill. Do you have any reaction to this? Do you think that Leader Skelos is acting in bad faith by using this tactic?
You know, I just don't know. I've heard the charge. I just don't know. So I can't say, I don't have an opinion on whether the Senate Democrats are right or wrong. I do know that this is a bill that I think is vitally important for the state of New York. We have talked about this for many, many years. But this really is a bill that can make all the difference. I presented my ideas. I spoke to it often and aggressively through the campaign, and I will continue to do so. You know, one of the common stories in Albany, Michael Dowling, who was here, I worked with many, many years ago. He was in my father's administration. He now runs North Shore. He's one of the preeminent healthcare professionals in the nation. But he was kidding inside. He said, you know, deadlines used to be deadlines, and things used to happen. Independent redistricting is one of those things that we just talk about ad infinitum. You know, every year we talk about this is what we should do. We should pass ethics reform. We should have independent redistricting. We should pass a budget on time. I don't know that we even believe anymore that it's actually possible. It's not just supposed to be something you talk about. It's something you're supposed to actually achieve. So I think it's vital, not that we just talk about it, but we actually achieve it. And that deadlines are deadlines. And that these bills actually get executed during the course of the year.
What do you believe is the deadline for redistricting reform to take place before the process actually has to get rolling?
Well, I want to see this bill passed.
But by when?
Well, as soon as possible.
You have a lot of friends over the years, like Mr. Dowling and all. What personal measures do you take to assure that someone who's, say, serving on a task force or serving in some other way officially doesn't have undue influence on you, or that you don't talk about these things? What do you do?
Well, Mike, I start with the law. I follow the law. That's what I do. And on an advisory board, for example, you follow the law and the requirements for people who serve on an advisory board. On an advisory board, you don't have, for example, client disclosure. Well, why not? Well, because then it'd be harder to get people to serve on an advisory board. Serve on a commission, if you take a job, you're a public officer, then you do client disclosure. So you follow the law.
But if you have a very close friend who's serving on this and is representing a major element of the industry, in the healthcare industry, do you do anything besides what the letter of the law is to make sure that there's no undue influence? Something to assure the public that nothing's happening like that?
Well, this was an advisory task force that was coming up with ideas, speaking to the public. It was run by Jason and Jim, who are public officials. It was chaired by Mr. Dowling and Mr. Rivera, but it was run by Jason and Jim, who are public officials, who are subject to the public officers law. I really didn't participate in the conversations on the commission, so I didn't weigh in really one way or the other on the, or wasn't in the room to hear one set of ideas versus another.
I'm sorry, Governor, may not be quick. I'm more interested in the element of if you have a friend, somebody you've been working with for a long time, someone who's an associate or friend, how do you know that that relationship doesn't spill over?
To whom? To me?
Sure.
If I have a friend, I take friends' advice, plus or minus, with a grain of salt. If they're a friend, I know where they're coming from, I know who they are, I know their bias, I know their perspective. You know, you talk to someone, you know who they are, and everyone has a perspective. Reporters have a perspective, private citizens have a perspective, and you take that into consideration.
Governor, are you continuing to talk to legislative leaders about other aspects of ethics reform, client disclosure? Do you think you're going to have a bill before the budget is passed? Do you have a bill in the next month?
Michael, there are two aspects, two immediate aspects to ethics. There are several components. Campaign finance is part of ethics. You could argue independent redistricting is part of ethics. The two parts that we're focusing on right now in ethics legislation specifically, one is disclosure of clients, and two is an independent commission to do policing. And they're two different concepts. I believe both are vitally important. I believe disclosure is vitally important. Why? It's important to know who the legislators work for. I work for the people of the state of New York. They pay me. They are the only people who pay me. The only financial relationship I have is with the people of the state of New York. Who do the legislators work for? Well, they work for the people, obviously. They're elected by the people. I know, but they're part-time. Who else do they work for? And do they represent anyone before the state? And if they do, under what circumstances? And who? I think the people have a right to know that. I believe the people have a right to know that in the absolute sense. I think it's especially acute today, when people look at Albany and say, I don't trust Albany, and I don't trust the government. And there have been a series of scandals and a series of episodes that have grown the distrust. So I need to be reassured, and I need to have confidence in the government. I'm trying to instill confidence in the government. Why? Because I believe in the government as a vehicle. And if the government vehicle is going to be effective, you have to have confidence. Because if people don't believe in the institution is impotent. So we have to restore the trust. And saying to the people of the state, this is who I work for. I'm represented, I work for a law firm, these are the clients, these are the conditions, these are the circumstances, here it is. I think that's very helpful. That's number one. Second is the independent policing mechanism, which is just what it sounds like. I said in the campaign many times that self-policing is an oxymoron. And I believe in an independent monitoring mechanism. Those are two separate components. We have them now combined in discussions. You could also separate them in discussions, but both are vitally important.
Are you going to get a bill soon?
We're getting closer. I said on Fred's show. That's sort of talk about the Albanyisms. That's an Albanyism. We're getting closer. We're getting closer. They are masters at getting right up to the goal line and tiptoeing. I actually saw this in a football game a few weeks back. It reminded me of Albany. Trying to stop the ball from getting in the end zone and making ballerina-like movements, running along the goal line to make sure the ball didn't get into the end zone. So they're very good at making progress up to the goal line. I'm a functional linear person, and success is getting over the goal line. So are we making progress? Yes. Are we talking? Yes. Are those positive signs? Yes. Are we getting closer to the goal line? Yes. Have we gotten over the goal line? No. Is it fundamentally relevant until we get over the goal line? In my opinion, no. I don't put a high value in, well, you had a productive process, except it didn't conclude. Thank you, guys. Thanks very much.